Hello, Musties. It is I, Jesús, your intrepid Musty Creative, here on New Year's Day, coming home from the theater after watching the Stranger Things series finale. That's right, Season 5, Episode 8. That's right, I can count. And I have some thoughts. I do, about the show, but mainly just about the finale. I just want to talk about the finale. And I just want to thank the Duffer Brothers for landing the plane and for just doing an excellent job on a series finale. I really do think the way they ended this show was exactly how we needed it to end. Even though I disagree with some of the choices, I, as a writer, would have ended it differently, but they did an excellent job. I am very happy with the experience I had at the theater watching this finale. It was excellent. It was just everything I had hoped for, to be honest with you. And so, yeah, again, I could quip about this, quip about that, but I genuinely had a great time. If you have not gone to the theater to watch Stranger Things series finale, I would definitely go. It's definitely best to watch in the theater first, and then you get to come home and then watch it or rewatch certain scenes that you loved on Netflix. It's actually a really fun experience to go and watch something in the theater and then immediately go home and kind of like do like a highlight rewind right there in your living room. That's actually pretty cool. So off the bat, I will say for my rating of the finale, just the finale episode, episode 8, I'm leaning in like a 9 or 10, right? I think a 9 just because it didn't do everything that I think it should have, but a 10 because what it did choose to do, it did it excellently. It did it just at a high bar. It was amazing. It was wonderful. I cried. Shell cried. I yelled. I clapped. I was excited. I even had like a couple of moments where I was like really pumped up, almost like when I was watching Avengers Endgame in the theater. You know, for those things, I say it could be a 10. I'm still not quite sure. I'm leaning towards a 9 and 10, but it was an excellent finale. And also, it was just a 10 because of the epic battle at the end. And we did get to see Vecna killed. There is no like, oh, did he survive? Oh, he's a good guy. We should feel sorry for him. No. Joyce went in there and did her thing. And we appreciate you, Joyce. Thank you. Thank you for doing it. Use the axe and chop off the head. That's what you're supposed to do. She did the David thing with Goliath. She did the Samuel thing with that King Agag. That's what you're supposed to do. You chop off the head of the snake, and you don't let them rise again. Thank you, Joyce. That was awesome. So with that out of the way, I would like to just talk about my favorite scenes from the finale. Starting out, really, my first favorite scenes. The finale was great all around, but to me, this is where everything picked up. You know, when you had Max being drawn into Elle's mind. That's when everything kind of started. It was really cool. I was really confused for a second. I was like, wait, Vecna find a way to trap Max again? And so, but that wasn't the case. But I'm really like that. I just like that whole arc, that whole thing where you arrive in Old Hawkins and Max is kind of giving the lowdown about who's hooking up with who and what's going on. And honestly, I would love like maybe a spin-off series or at least a season to just go over Old Hawkins High and just see the old Wheelers, see Hopper, see Joyce. Yeah, just to check it out and kind of see like what kind of stuff kind of led to the current Stranger Things. Because then we also could have possibly seen a young Henry. So yeah, I just loved all of that. And then continuing from that, it was just really awesome just for Max to guide Kali and Elle to Henry in the sense of just like, you know, the waiting period where they were in like a kind of like a musical, and then the curtains, you know, fell or they came together and she cleared the curtains and then she was there with Henry and led Elle to take out Henry. That was amazing. The whole thing with the kids and then using Kali to confuse Vecna and make it seem like the kids were all gone so that, you know, so Max could show them and expose Vecna or Henry to the kids. That was awesome. Like just all was so good. The only thing I will say is, you know, and this is my problem with the writing just in general, is that the Duffer Brothers and the writing team, they have these moments where they could do something and then they insert like an actual pause for the character and then, you know, the enemy gets away. And in this case, you know, they get the kids out of there. Elle shoves Vecna onto the table. She says now, and then Kali can, you know, she goes in there with a knife and she could just cut his throat and end it right there. But she has to pause and do that thing that they do in movies and TV where the hero pauses and then the enemy gets the upper hand on them in that quick second. The biggest example of that was in The Patriot, and I will always hate those kind of scenes. Right now, they kind of had a reason in The Patriot for that to do that, but it's just so frustrating. Like, does a character really have to say something before they kill somebody? I don't know. Is it more dramatic? Yes, it is. So I get it, but it's annoying and frustrating because now as a writer, I can see it. I can literally see it, and I'm like, okay, you purposely pace this out so you can continue the show, so you can continue the storyline. I get it. My next favorite scene was when Hopper got confused. Vecna put him in kind of like a trance and confused him, and then it looked like he shot Elle. That was scary. I was thinking like, wow, they're going to kill Elle like that. And honestly, that would have been a super brave choice from the writers. And again, it's not that it wasn't brave. It all makes sense now because I was like really confused. I thought Elle actually did get shot, but it was all an illusion, and it was really well done. It all makes sense in the world building. Just one of my favorite scenes. I thought it was really excellent. And then after that, Hopper gives a really amazing speech to Elle that makes, that changes Collie's mind about the whole suicide pact thing that she proposed to Elle in the previous episode. And so I just, give props to Hopper. He did an amazing job of just he was still kind of annoying in the sense of, Elle, I don't want you to do anything. But when he gave that speech and showed Elle the kind of life that she could have, the whole idea that she could have a kid and give her the life that she didn't have, that was really amazing. I really like that. Not my favorite scene because they put Steve Harrington in harm's way, but I'm so glad that Steve is still alive. And he didn't die, and he didn't get close to dying. So that was really, well, he did get close to dying, but, he was saved by Jonathan, which led to a beautiful scene between Jonathan and Steve, kind of hashing everything out. Both of them realizing, hey, Nancy's not really for us. She's kind of screwing us up. So we don't need to fight each other. We still may not like each other, but we don't have to hate. Or at least we don't have to allow Nancy to get in between us. And I think that leads to a lot of my problems with Nancy Wheeler is that she was used as the reason for pitting Jonathan and Steve against each other. And I'm tired of that. I know it happens. I know it's relevant. I know it's relatable and something you can empathize with. But after season 1 and especially season 2, I really got tired of that arc or that storyline. And so I'm glad that they just put it all to rest and realize Nancy ain't worth fighting for. I will say this, Nancy Wheeler was really, really, really cool in this finale. She was big sister. She took care of everybody. She went first. She protected everybody. She volunteered first. She has definitely come a long way since season 1, and I definitely give the character props for that. All right, and finally, yes, the epic battle. I didn't quite understand the plan that Dustin had laid out in episode 7. So when everybody, climbed into the Abyss planet or just the other planet, then I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. I thought the plan was just to blow things up and to put stuff on the top of the tower in the upside down and then just, wait for it to get close and then blow it up. I didn't think they're actually going to go in there. So that made a lot more sense. And I just really love that idea that they actually were able to, climb into the other planet and be in the world where Vecna has been training and gathering his forces and working with the Mind Flayer. And yeah, the Mind Flayer, the real Mind Flayer, not this thing in the wind, not made up of particles or other things like that, like in season 3, not entering into the mouths of children like it did in season 2 to Will, like the actual physical Mind Flayer, which we now know was the reason that Henry got powers in the first place. That reveal was amazing. And the fact that the Mind Flayer got Vecna or Henry as a child, that's why Vecna Henry goes after children, because the Mind Flayer thinks children are weak-minded and uses them as vessels and as slaves and servants. So pretty much this whole time, Henry has kind of been a slave/servant. But he made his own choice when he realized it, and Will gave him a choice to fight against the Mind Flayer, and Henry Vecna still did that. So I'm glad Joyce chopped off his head. But yeah, the whole battle was sick. The whole thing where Nancy was kind of the bait, and they kind of drew the Mind Flayer into a valley, and then everyone was shooting stuff. Some of the, I'm not gonna lie, Lucas with the slingshot, classic. It did look a little silly. And then, of course, Mike following up with the flare gun stuff. That was cool. I'm glad they got, an opportunity. Robin throwing Molotov cocktails and stuff. Really, it felt a little silly, a little 80s tropey, a little yeah, there's a movie I'm trying to reference, but I'm totally forgetting it. Little Goonies, but it's okay because in the end, Elle came through and she fought the Mind Flayer one-on-one. It was sick. Then jumped super high in the air and then opened up an enclosure in like the chest of the Mind Flayer and then beat down Vecna. It was so good. And it was like everybody coming together all at once, fighting the Mind Flayer, fighting Vecna because they're hive mind and hurting one hurts the other. And just slowly beating down or taking down the hit points, as Dustin had mentioned before. It was amazing. And then, again, like I mentioned before, when Joyce comes in with the axe and they just chop it down. And then Will helped out Elle when she was fighting Vecna to control him for a second so that she could finally shove him onto, I guess, a tooth or whatever that was, like some bone, and pierce his heart. That was so good. And then he was gurgling. He was like, oh, it was just like so good. And Joyce was just like, oh, like, ooh, everyone. I was like, and then all the children there. It was almost like, yeah, it was almost just like children being able to see, what's the word I'm trying? Their pedophile be taken out. Like, it was really cool. Man, it was so satisfying to see Vecna get his comeuppance and the Mind Flayer being wrecked. It was so good. And it's crazy. Absolutely crazy, because Dr. K and the military saw the kids' plan. In the end, they still didn't help them fight Vecna and the Mind Flayer. They were still worried about trying to get Elle's blood, which is just ridiculous. And I saw this amazing Instagram take by someone where they said, the message here is that in the end, the government is a true enemy. And that, as far as the show is concerned, with the way the government in the show acted, is really, really a good thing to take out of it, y'all. Like, you just got to depend on your friends and family and God. You can't depend on these institutions, if you know what I'm saying. Anyways, the whole battle was epic. The conclusion was so epic. It was just so good. It was so satisfying to defeat evil. And I love those good and evil stories. I know they can seem basic. I know they don't seem nuanced. And this definitely wasn't nuanced. But it was so good. It was very much like Return of the Jedi. It felt amazing. And I just loved it. And also the Duffer Brothers' commitment to just say, hey, this is it for these characters. They defeated evil. We're done. Moving on. We're not going to hopefully we're not getting any foolishness, kind of like with 7, 8, 9, or like somehow Palpatine has, returned. It was really well done. I know people dislike Netflix, and I've said my things about Netflix, but in the end, they really allowed the Duffer Brothers to cook, and I'll give a little golf clap to Netflix. You completed a show. You completed a great show, and now people who haven't watched Stranger Things, at some point, they can come into Netflix, they can log in, and they can enjoy the juicy sweetness that is Stranger Things. And so Netflix, great job. You finished the show. I'm proud of you, buddy. I'm proud of you, pal. Good job, champ. Good job. And then all the scenes that were connected to the graduation, amazing. The Dustin speech, the final D&D game, and then the heartfelt message that Mike gave at the end. Seeing where all the kids go off to, and then Lucas and Max being happy together. That was so good. That was amazing. Give some love also to Joyce and Hopper, getting engaged. That's really nice. Again, I don't really care about the older characters as much, even like the older kids, not as much. But the young core, right? You got Mike. I even like Mike now. Mike, Max, Lucas, Dustin, and Will. Yeah, those 5, amazing. Love that final game for them. And then obviously Elle survived. As far as we know, Elle survived. And the interpretation that Mike gave us at the end was chef's kiss. Very good. Loved it. Loved it all. It's just amazing. I'm so glad we got to see them. And it was a very long, like, denouement, like a very long kind of end, and that was great, because that's what we needed. And that's where I started crying, because it was just like, it's like when you graduate from high school and all those feelings come back, but you're also happy to have survived. So it was really good. Yeah, in the end, this is just a really great show, and I'm so glad I got to watch it in real time. Michelle and I started first season when it came out. We were first not gonna watch it, but then we got a really great recommendation from director Jason Sirlin. And then now to be here, season 5, 9 years later, it's just amazing. Really glad to watch it. Really glad to watch the finale. Again, if you can, go see it in the theater because you will not regret it. Okay. Let's also just like go through my favorite characters for the finale. A quick caveat, the Wheeler family is safe from my wrath. I'm not upset anymore, except the dad. The dad still sucks, but everyone's still cool. Holly's amazing. Nancy's amazing. Mama Wheeler is awesome. Really, just, this season made me like the Wheelers. Again, except for the dad. All right, favorite characters, 11. She's a boss. She's amazing. Max is a boss. She was amazing. I mean, really, really just proud of this group. And then, of course, you got to give love to Will. He was great in the season finale. He was great in the season. Dustin is amazing. Steve is amazing. Murray is amazing. I love all those characters. Of course, always got to love my Lucas. But as far as like what people, how they contributed to the actual finale, they're amazing. And so I'll miss them all very dearly. But I know they're not too far away. And in the end, I just want to say goodbye, Hawkins.